Archer and the Devil.
Welcome to episode 9 of Archer and the Devil. We are back.
Welcome back.
We are back on camera. We are back on microphones.
We always have microphones.
We are back, good, happy. Oh, well, I don't know. Is happy the right word? Are we're happy to be back.
We're happy to be back.
Yeah,
obviously with lockdown happening, we're 81 days as a country into lockdown now.
As if you're counting.
I
don't even know what day it is, let alone how many days we've been in it.
It's Thursday also. So it's 81 days. I think we did try and do episode 8 after, and then...
It just didn't seem right, did it?
Yeah, and then not only that, I think you were helping out your mum.
Yes.
With NHS stuff, so because of that, it was like, it's a smarter thing to do.
Yeah, no, it was, I think, too risky at that time for what we was being told, etc. wasn't ideal.
I think especially at the start, I think the beginning of lockdown, no one really knew what was happening. Everyone thought they were going to die if they went outside. So it seemed like the smart thing to do.
Yeah, so we knocked it on the head. Unfortunately, it was horrible to do because we had so much content to talk about, and we couldn't even discuss it. We tried to do an online one, and we tried to do like a video call, and it just didn't seem
the flow
right. No, it wasn't the same feel. So we thought, well, rather than...
We did do a makeshift cooking one.
We did Cookie with Archer. I think it went down really well.
I think it went well. What was it you made?
Till you joined in and ruined it all with your Mr. Grumpy ass. I made...
having a grumpy day.
I made breaded chicken. Like almost like not like a fake away, because it wasn't matching anything, but it was good fun. It's on... Is it still on Facebook?
I don't know. It's your Facebook.
Rob? It's still on Facebook, isn't it?
So, yeah.
Oh, also Rob is here.
Producer Rob is here, which he hasn't been either for a few family weeks.
Welcome back, Rob.
Too many. Hello!
Since episode 5 was the last time.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. So we did 6, 7, and 8 without him, which was just audio.
Yes.
And now we've got the team back together.
And now he's back. The band is back together. We are good to go.
So we have lots of things to talk about.
We do.
The main thing currently, obviously, is...
Aside from coronavirus, for a change.
Yeah.
For a change.
Obviously, the death of George Floyd.
Yes.
There's no need going over the whole details of it, because I think everybody knows what's happened.
Yes.
I think personally, I want to go in straight away with the term Black Lives Matter.
Right, yeah. So me and you are obviously on very different sides of the fence. Not different sides of the fence, but of a different understanding of this, right? So I'm white, you're not. You've probably experienced a lot more in terms of racism than what I have. But I will say I have experienced racism towards me as well. Somebody called me a white bastard once. Because I wouldn't clean up in his house after fitting his sky. So I have experienced some sort... But that's once in my whole life.
I will say, I know a lot of people have this... Because I know in America they call it reverse racism. It's not reverse racism. Racism is racism.
Yeah.
So
that makes no sense.
I have got notes. Racism by definition is prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against someone of a different race based on the belief that one's own race is superior.
That makes sense.
That is a definition
of
racism. So if, no matter what colour you are, if you believe yourself to be more superior over somebody else, that is racism. So there's no such thing as reverse racism. Racism is racism. With Black Lives Matter, the example I want to use for people who don't understand, because the only time you ever hear all lives matter is purely as a response to Black Lives Matter.
Nobody protests
and just says
all lives matter. Right. No, nobody does that.
So the example, this literally came to me last night, because I keep hearing things of like, if one house is on fire and the fireman comes and puts out the next house and the house after that, it's like, well, my house is on fire. It's like, yeah, but all houses matter. Or if you get stabbed in the leg and then you go to hospital and they check your arm, so all limbs matter. And there's examples people keep using. I think the most relatable one in this country is because of COVID. We've just spent 3 months with rainbows on our windows and applauding every Thursday at 8 p.m. for the NHS. That's not discrediting teachers. It's not discrediting fire service. It's not discrediting police officers. It's just at the minute, they need more attention and more appreciation because they're front line. There's a global pandemic happening. They are the people putting their lives on the line more so than anybody else, which is why people were showing appreciation to them.
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter is the exact same thing as that. We still have other races, but currently there's a pandemic being racism against black people, which is why Black Lives Matter currently, not to say others don't, but that's why that moniker is what that moniker is.
I think the biggest issue with all of it, I would say, is understanding. As with everything, as we've always said through every podcast, education. Yeah. I think too many people don't understand the situation around it, and that in turn leads to being easily swayed by things that they see, things that they hear, stories that their friends tell them, because then it gives them that, oh, it's a little bit of knowledge, so now I sound knowledgeable on it, so I'll pass that knowledge on, and then it just spirals on from there. Like, I'll tell you my stance on it, because you're a lot more clued up about it than me, right? So, as we always do, we play devil's advocate on this show, right? So, I seen what happened. I didn't see, I'll change that, sorry. I heard about what happened in America with George Floyd, right? A black guy got killed by the police, right? Which is, on its basic level, what it was. So my first reaction was, this happens a lot in America. The police seem to kill, one way or another, a lot of people that they're trying to arrest.
7,000 black people since the year 2000.
Anybody. Like, they seem to... You always hear stuff about an officer shooting someone, whether it was justified or not, whatever. The police force in the States are very different to the UK. Very different.
Well, globally.
The number one misconception that I've seen is people sharing stuff in England saying that the police are sworn to protect the UK citizens. They're not. They're not. In the UK, the police are there to keep the peace. That's it. That's their role, is keep the peace. In the US, it's protect and serve. In the UK, that's why when people go, oh, well, they're citizens of the state, they're servants to the state. No. In the UK, they are there to keep the peace. End of story. In the US, they protect and serve. So they're sworn in to protect their people. It's very different. So that's why they have different rules, different laws, different firearms laws, all that sort of stuff. So that's the first thing. I seen what happened, and in my first initial reaction was, oh, here we go again. Because a copper has killed someone in the States. That was it. Race never even entered my mind. It wasn't even a thing. I didn't know if the guy was black, white, nothing.
Because you've heard about it.
Because I've just heard about it. That's it. So George Floyd could be anyone. Could be anyone. So my first thought was, here we go again. Copper's killed someone in the States. There's going to be uproar. The copper's going to be arrested. That's going to be the end of it. Then the protests started, and it all getting a bit more heated. So I looked into it a little bit more, and I was like, okay. So then I still haven't watched the video, right? But I've seen stills of the video. So then I've seen the guy kneeling on the guy's neck. So I'm like, okay, so this is why it's so bad. Again, race never even entered my mind, right? The guy's kneeling on the guy's neck. It's pretty overboard.
For 8 minutes and 46 seconds.
It's quite overboard. So then I seen the picture of the three other guys also on his back. So now I'm thinking, this is why it's kicking off. Police brutality, people are not happy about it, it's overkill, etc., etc. Fair enough. Then I started seeing Black Lives Matter, and I'm thinking, well, why? But again, different perspectives. Like, I don't see people as different colours. As in, like, you're just Sunny. You're not brown Sunny. That's not black so-and-so, that's black so-and-so. Do you know what I'm saying?
I've had friends before say I don't see colour.
No, I didn't mean I don't see colour, but I don't... That's not my first thought isn't, you know Sunny, the brown guy. It's, you know Sunny, he looks like the devil. Do you know what I mean? Like, my first thought isn't to describe someone as their colour.
No, I get that.
So you're just Sunny. Like, so again, I'm still thinking in my head, I understand the guy's died, he's been killed, etc. But what's the big deal? And then it clicked. Shit, the guy's black, the coppers are white, etc., etc. People are then saying it's Black Lives Matter and this, and then it still took a while for me to understand
the relevance of it.
And why is it such a big deal? And not taking away anything that the guy got killed. I get that. Do you know what I mean? Regardless of the guy's history, regardless if he was a criminal or not, regardless if he was an upstanding citizen or not, it's irrelevant. The guy died. Nobody deserves to be killed whilst being arrested, regardless of
100%.
what you've done.
Yeah.
And it's the same with terrorists. Like, if you're a terrorist, you get killed whilst there. Do you deserve to? No, you deserve to be punished for your crime. You don't deserve to be killed for your crime. Simple as that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I was trying to piece it together. Like, I get it, right? Okay, he's been killed. He's a black guy. Why is it now? Is this such a big thing? And then
Why has it become about race?
basically, yeah. So then I started looking to it, and I'll be honest, I kept quiet.
Yeah.
I was listening and I was watching and I was trying to understand both sides of the story. I was trying to look at both sides of the story. But all it kept coming back was to this all lives matter thing. And I'm thinking, that almost goes without saying.
Right.
And then I think what made it click was I seen your post about, I can't even remember what it was now. You put a big post about saying all lives matter, and it was, what did you say?
I think that was the one where I put something about if all lives matter, then you must be pro-refugee.
Yes, yeah, that's it. Why is the homeless people? Why is the this? Why is the people in food banks? Why is this that? If everybody's all lives matter,
Then
why is the
all lives
war?
matter?
Why is nobody kicking off
All the time.
all the time?
Yeah.
Because if all lives matter and somebody's being hurt for whatever reason,
Yeah.
why are you not protesting
And
about
even
that?
so, why aren't you protesting about this? Because it's still a life that was taken.
And that's-
so if all
yeah.
lives matter, then this is inclusive of that. So your answer shouldn't be all lives matter full stop. It should be all lives matter, and this is what I'm going to do in protest. Or this is what I'm going to do to make it vocal. And my issue with all lives matter is it isn't an answer. It's such a bullshit response to something that people take personally as an attack. Like, well, no, my life matters. Well, no one's questioning your life. No one's killing you. Like, I'm brown, so when I post Black Lives Matter, I know I'm not including myself in that. I'm not inclusive in that because I'm not black. And I have to remind people of that. So I think a lot of people think I talk about racism purely because I am of a certain colour, which maybe heightens the reason, but this isn't about me. Like, it's not people of my colour currently being attacked. I mean, when terrorism happens, whenever I read or hear about an explosion somewhere, my first thought is please let me brown. Because if they are, my life's harder for about 6 months. You know, and it is. It just is.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been globally, publicly, media-wise, any kind of terrorist shit for a while. And I think the lead up to this, there was the guy, Ahmed Aubrey, who was a black kid who was jogging.
Yes. Yeah.
And there were two out-of-uniform police officers who gunned him down in the street, middle of the afternoon, just going for a jog down the street. And they cornered him off in a pickup truck.
They thought he was up to no good.
And shot him.
Yeah.
And he was just going for a jog. The day that George Floyd died was when that video got leaked to the woman in Central Park who's walking a dog and then called the police because a black guy had walked up and said, your dog's meant to be on a leash. She called up the police and said, a black man's threatening my life. Knowing full well
The police would arrive ASAP.
and what would happen
And
on the back of that. So I think people were already pissed off in the lead up to it.
Yeah.
I think COVID has contributed because everyone's at home, everyone's on social media.
I was going to say that later on, but yeah.
I think it's definitely been a factor in it.
Yeah.
And then I think the fact that he was knelt on for 8 minutes and 46 seconds is the biggest aspect of it. It's not everything else built up to it, but I think it's the way that it was done, which is why people are so angry.
I think it's a big boiling pot of anger and hatred
Frustration
that has just boiled over.
Yeah.
Literally, it could have been any one of them things that boiled it over, but it's happened.
A contributing factor of all things build up, and it does become as significant as it has. There was one thing Will Smith said that was racism isn't getting worse; it's getting filmed. I absolutely think that's true. I think the thing is, I am vocal about this, exceptionally. So I always have been. If you've known me, especially if you follow me on social media, anytime something like this happens, I'm very, very vocal about it because it's something that I've had to live through for 37 years, which might be why I do feel more, passionate about it, I guess.
Which is probably why I don't feel passionate is the wrong word, but haven't took as much interest, should I say, because it doesn't affect me as much.
And I understand that.
And that's not ignorance.
Well, no, I think
it's just life.
I think a lot of
just
people
life.
at the moment are having that realization.
Yep, exactly.
You know what I mean?
You mean you watched that TV program recently where they'd done the school swap? We live in Tamworth.
Yeah, I
it's
didn't see that, but
97% white
Yeah,
in Tamworth.
yeah.
Majority of our friends are from Tamworth.
Yeah.
So we probably seen it from a different perspective of, say, people that live in London, etc.,
Yeah.
because it's a lot more ethnically based area.
Yeah.
Whereas
there's more-
Tamworth isn't.
There's more diversity.
Exactly. Whereas Tamworth isn't
At all.
So we're getting it probably 10 times more
Yeah.
than other people, just down to geography and where we live.
Yeah.
And through no fault of our own, through no fault of their own. But that still doesn't excuse ignorance.
It doesn't. And I think,
It's as simple as that.
I think one thing that's annoyed me is the fact that the conversation now has gone from what's happened to the behaviour that's come after it. So there was a whole thing about the rioters and the looters, like, well, they shouldn't be doing that and they shouldn't be doing this. And now the whole thing with the statues, because the statue got pulled down in Bristol of a slave owner, slave trader. And now people are saying, well, why are we tearing our statues down? Because it's a fucking slave trader.
Also, they've been petitioning
For
years
in
to get
Bristol.
that down.
Yeah, I mean, and
So
this-
it's not just they've just gone, let's pull that down
Absolutely.
because we've got the opportunity.
And this is the thing, is that I learned more about that statue in 5 minutes after it got pulled down than I had done in the rest of my life.
Yep.
And one thing I said, like when people were like, yeah, but we're tearing down history, how are we going to learn about it? I've never Googled a statue after I've seen it.
Never.
In my life.
No.
I'm always like, I don't know who that guy is, and carry on with my life. That's it. And books still exist, and the internet still exists. So if you want to learn, it's not like we've whitewashed history and just taken them out of it. Like, you can still learn about these motherfuckers. Just how about don't celebrate them with statues?
Just don't make people walk past them
right.
that are a bit horrible. Like somebody used it as, well, would we put a statue up of Hitler?
Right.
And you're like, well, no. Well, why?
Yeah.
Because he was a bit of an horrible bastard.
there was
but he was a politician and he'd done some great things. Yeah, but did he?
Yeah.
Like, he done quite a few bad things as well. So depending on what.
I think that's underestimating the extent of 6 million Jews that he killed. But
people, unfortunately, and this is the biggest issue that you have, being very vocal and passionate about certain things, is people will only ever believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
They will only ever read the bits that they want to see.
Yeah.
And they will only ever speak about the parts that back up their argument.
I think the problem is as well
And
with
that won't
people-
ever change.
It won't, but I do this as well. So whenever someone says anything, or if ever I have a conversation with someone, I'm trying to find not a counter argument to it, but understand it, right? So you almost want to be like, yeah, but this isn't the time for yeah, but this is just the time to listen. I'm listening because I'm not a black person. So
Same. That's exactly what I've done. I've tried my
educating
hardest.
myself a lot.
Yeah.
I did put a thing up last night. I'm not sure. I think you did see it. Saying if you're listening and you're not being vocal, that's fine. But at the end of this, there will be a quiz.
Didn't see that, but
Just 'cause
okay.
I think a lot of people, because I've got angry. I've probably fallen out with about 30% of my friends, and I'm fine with that. I genuinely am, because I'm like, if you're gonna stay, if you get angry about certain things, if you've bitched about people breaking lockdown rules, if you've bitched about mental health, if you've bitched about whatever it is, bitched about isn't the right term, because I'm not bitching about this now. If you've got angry about something before, and you've given yourself and used your platform to speak out about that, then all of a sudden you're silent as fuck about this. Like, I see your silence, because I remember you posting that other shit. So for you not to say anything now, and if your argument is I'm learning, I mean, you've had your entire life.
You're describing me right now.
But like, black people have had 400 years of
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
So to say,
yeah.
bear with me, I'm just learning. Like, it's a bit late, but fine, go learn. But when you learn, use your voice. Don't just say, well, I've learned now. Cool, what are you going to do with it? Oh, no, I know more about it.
I know more about it. Yeah.
But that's not it. It doesn't end there. And I think that's been my thing. And the problem is there's so many, like, people say more white people die in America. Yeah, but 73% of America is white.
That's just statistic. That's
Like,
just,
if you look at the percentage is a completely different figure. But if you just want to look at it from a numeracy point of view, then yeah, you can alter stats in that way and figures in that way.
Again,
And
they'll describe and use what they want to use
And
to
even
counter
so,
their
if
argument.
that's your argument, then why aren't you protesting?
Because more white people are being killed. Yeah.
Then why aren't you in the streets rioting and protesting? Because the whole argument is police brutality, specifically against black people. But if your counter argument is, yeah, but white people die too, go use your platform. Go get angry about it. It's not that you care. It's that you don't care about this.
Do you think that, on that sense, that there's a stigma around, I want to say white people complaining, but that might not be the right way to describe it. Potentially white people complaining about race against white people? Is there a stigma, do you think? Like, do people feel a bit... Do you think that's partly why, like you've just said about use your platform, complain, this, that and the other? If I complained, say if I give you that argument, well, so-and-so a percentage of white people get killed in the States by the police as well, so I'm going to do a White Lives Matter protest to save them people. Do you think that that's going to be classed as being racist? Is there a stigma around that?
Because white people aren't dying because they're white.
True.
That's why White Lives Matter as a statement is counterproductive. And not only that, but what you're doing is trying to one-up them. Have your own thing. It doesn't need to be everything else is something lives matter.
True.
It doesn't have to be that.
Okay, then another argument. Devil's advocate again.
Yeah.
Are people... Well, I don't want to say criminals, but they're not criminals because... I mean, I suppose they are.
People who are incarcerated.
Are people that break in the law being killed because they're breaking the law?
It depends.
Or because they're black, or because they're white?
Well, I mean, if you look at other countries who have crime but also don't have the same murder rate from police to people, then no.
Yep.
Because, again, George Floyd, the reason he was arrested was, I've read two different things. So one was apparently a bad check, and one was apparently a counterfeit $20 bill.
That's what I've heard, yeah, counterfeit.
And if it's I go somewhere now and get a £10 note and change, and go somewhere else and pay for it, and it happens to be fake, do I deserve to die 10 minutes later because of that?
No, but even if he was stood there holding a gun up to the cashier's face,
well, no,
he still doesn't deserve to die, does he?
Dylan Roof was the guy who went and shut down a church, I think it was, and he killed 38 people. And not only was he not killed, he was carried out in handcuffs. He walked out
of the scene,
when
murder
the
scene.
Police came and arrested him.
Right.
He walked out and they got him a Burger King. After he
was a white guy.
He was a white guy.
Right.
He was a white supremacist. He posted pictures with the Confederate flag and stuff like that. Right. Manifesto. Not only was he not dragged out, he got walked out and then they gave him Burger King.
But is that down to his colour or is that down to scenario?
What do you think?
But that's what I'm asking.
Okay, my question is, if that was a black guy with a gun, do you think it would have gone the same way?
But again, I don't know.
Okay, no.
Because...
No. History will tell you.
Will tell me, yeah. History states that that's not the case.
There was a list somebody put up of misdemeanors that people have been arrested for that have led to their death in America.
Right.
Black people specifically. So it's... now there's using a fake $20 bill. Apparently a fake $20 bill. There's having a toy gun. There's having a broken tail light. There's putting a seatbelt on. Reaching for your wallet. Like the reasons, and there's worse ones as well. There's selling cigarettes loosely on the street was Eric Garner. He got strangled a few years ago as well by the police. The reasons when you put next to the death horrific. It's not that these people are being killed because they had 4 guns on them and were walking out of a bank.
And they just killed 37 people.
It's because one of the lights in the car didn't work properly. They didn't indicate properly going into the street. And
so they've got out, they've gone, he's black. Because immediately they've gone...
Because they were going for a jog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the reasons have been fucking ridiculous. And I think there's so much which I've learned. So I didn't know about... there is a lot I want to kind of work through, so I will just kind of work through my sheet of notes here. One thing being about... Let me try and find where I put it on here. So with police, I was saying before, there's 7,000 black deaths since 2000 that have been recorded. So that's not including the ones that haven't been accounted for as well. They're just the ones that we know about. And there was a thing regarding... Bear with me 1 second. So it goes back from slavery. I think that was the point. Was that the 13th Amendment, when slavery was abolished in America, it basically meant that obviously no one could now have people working for free on their part. And America was built by slaves. Like, it's well documented.
Yep.
When that happened, the 13th Amendment came in. And the 13th Amendment, there's a film on Netflix called 13, which is really informative for this. That slavery is legal if it's prisoners.
Right.
So prisoners can still work for free.
Okay.
Once the 13th Amendment came in, which was immediately after slavery, so they went hand in hand, the incarceration rate went massively through the roof. And now I think America has 13% black people, but 80% of the prison population is black. So there's a huge thing in America as well, where black people get locked up because it is free slavery.
I see. Okay.
And there's not only that, there's a whole stigma that comes with it where there's a perception of black people being criminals.
And so what you're saying is that's effectively where you think all this started.
Yeah.
And it's just ingrained. Majority of people probably, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that until this week.
I didn't know that.
Like,
So that
literally
would
this
make
week.
sense that that's how it started.
Yeah.
And it was a loophole
Yeah.
to carry on slavery.
Absolutely.
And that's just got ingrained in the system. That's how the system works. That's how it's been passed down. That's how probably whole institutions have been built.
Yeah.
The prison system, the police system, everything has been built around that. And it's just in people's heads.
Yeah, it's a narrative.
Their
that's pushed
history,
ahead.
their
Yeah, yeah.
everything. That's just what happens.
Well, America has 5% of the population of the world, but 25% of the prison population of the world. So a quarter
Okay.
of prisoners in the world are in the US.
That's a big statistic.
Fucking insane.
That's a big statistic, considering how big places like China and
Yeah,
Asia
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that are.
Wait, 25% right? Maybe I've said that wrong.
Oh.
They've got 2.5 million prisoners, but there's 8 billion people
Is
in
it
the world.
25% of their population?
No, because that wouldn't be right either, because 330. I should have made a note of that. Ignore that bit. There is this. I'll also correct.
It's big anyway.
I'll correct next week.
It's big anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sure Rob can put the right statistic on the screen.
I'll message it to him so he can get it right. But I think the point is that, like, I think throughout American history, there has been. They didn't get civil rights until Martin Luther King died. So
Yep.
when Martin Luther King died in 1968, they rioted for 6 days,
I was just going to say, and how did they get civil rights?
and on the 6th day of rioting,
Yep.
they passed the Civil
Yep.
Rights Act of 1968, and that's one thing. Let's go to rioting as
Yep.
well, because another narrative that's come out of this is rioting is wrong, looting is wrong. But the way women got equal rights was suffragettes.
And again, this is something that I read
yeah.
afterwards.
Yeah.
So again, my initial thought was, well, rioting is wrong.
Yeah.
Rioting is bad. But in the definition of the term rioting, there is no good part of a riot. By definition, a riot is bad.
Yeah.
Whether it's looting, protesting, whatever
Yeah.
it is, a riot is bad.
Yeah.
That's the point of a riot.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a peaceful
But if
riot.
things were going well, you wouldn't need to riot.
No, exactly. You don't have a peaceful riot.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So part and parcel of rioting is unfortunately looting. It is damage to property, to
Yeah.
people, whatever. That's the basis of a riot.
And a lot of people's argument is, why are they destroying their communities? But with gentrification, how many of the communities are communities anymore? Like, if there's a Starbucks where your grandma's house used to be and you burn it down, you're not really burning down your fucking community, are you?
No.
It's a Starbucks, it's a Target, it's a Nike shop. These things will get fixed again. And in comparison to human life, it doesn't really matter. Riotings always happen. I did have a stat for this as well. So minimum wage and overtime violations in the US account for $32 billion of loss. Looting and rioting and robbery account for 0.34 billion.
So it's minimal.
It's
Nothing.
a scratch
Yeah.
compared to what the government and the companies are doing in terms of looting off people,
Yep.
if you want to put it like that. And not only that, America was looted. The whole country was founded by Europeans going over there and stealing that country. So surely it's just in their blood. Because that's historically
also,
how the country
didn't-
was found. And look at every museum. Look at our... We have the
But then
best
America
museums
done
in
it
the
to
world.
themselves as well afterwards.
Yeah.
By taking it off the Indian
That's
fellas
what,
and all that
they're
sort of
not
stuff.
Indians, they're Native Americans.
Native Americans.
I'm
I
Indian.
couldn't think of the word. Native Americans.
They're very
But they
different
took it off
places.
them as well.
Yeah.
So the Europeans took it off the Native Americans, and then the Americans took it off them as well. Is that right?
No, because there were no Americans. The Native Americans were the Americans.
Wait, what did I say?
The Europeans took it off the Native Americans, and then the Americans took it off the Europeans.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
No, there are
got that the wrong way
There were
around.
no Americans.
No, I've got
The
that the wrong way
Americans were
around.
Native Americans.
Yes.
And everybody else was immigrant Americans,
Yes.
which is what they should be called now. Americans should be Native Americans, and Americans as we know them should be called immigrant Americans.
That's right. I got it the wrong way around.
Yeah. But so obviously Europeans went over there. That was Christopher Columbus, who's had I think 4 statues, top order, his head taken off now, which fucking good. Go for it, destroy all of them. And they went over and stole the country. And I think by 1790, a quarter of the US was owned by Europeans or immigrant Americans. By 1830, a third of it, And then 100 years from the first day, so from 1890, 96% of North America was owned by Europeans. So within 100 years, they took over the country.
Gone.
Just that's theirs. And if you loot an entire country, then don't be like, well, you can't loot. And not only that, but there's a whole thing with the police in general. And you have governments who aren't peaceful. The military isn't peaceful. The police aren't peaceful, but people have to be. You have police who turn up in riot gear, shields, helmets, guns, bullets, tasers, batons, and then they're like, but they weren't protesting peacefully. Like, bitch, you've come dressed like RoboCop fucking for a war. And that's become so... We've been conditioned to think that's okay.
And, and I think, like you say, if the police turned up or the army turned up in just their uniform, it would never get to that scale of violence and everything else. Because if you're, like you say, you're there turned up ready for war, the only way to combat that is with war. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So if they'd have just turned up the same in their shirt and trousers and said, look, what's kicking off, like, it would never, I would imagine, never scale to that level.
Well, I'd love to see one protest where the protesters were dressed and armed up the same way the police were. Let's make it a fair fight. Give them shields, give them fucking guns and tasers and batons.
But that's the thing, and then it levels up to being a full. But wars are not fought like that.
Well, no,
like, wars are not even that.
The US cannot use tear gas in other countries, but they use it on their own people.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that until this week.
Is that like a rule?
They cannot use tear gas because it's inhumane, but that law only applies
outside of the US.
Outside of the US.
It's
fucking crazy.
But this is the whole thing.
And their tear gas is made in this country.
We've discussed how fucking backwards America is as a country.
It really is.
Many times.
It really is.
Many times.
But I do think the solution to this is there's one thing at the minute which is defund the police. I think a lot of people are getting confused by that. Defund the police doesn't mean stop giving the police any money at all and eradicate the police force, which Minneapolis actually are trying to do. They're trying to make it so they no longer have police. But they will bring something else in.
I was going to say, but they're not.
No. It's not just like a Mad Max. Everyone rules each other.
They're trying to change the system, aren't they? They're mixing it up.
When Mike Brown died in Baltimore a few years ago, I think it was Mike Brown in Baltimore. It was Freddie Gray. There was a thing then where one of the police officers said, "We have too much to do," and I agree with that. They do, and they're not. They're 8 weeks training in the US. The police do, so I think do train them better. But also, if someone has a mental health issue that's been causing a problem to the public, then call the correct people to come and deal with that. That may not be 5 armed police cars. I'm not saying you don't need police, but I don't think you should have more power than me because you have a costume and a badge, which is ultimately what it is. And I think the problem with a lot of police in America as well is that if you study law, if you're a lawyer and you can get debarred if you don't use the law lawfully.
If you break the law using the law.
If you're a doctor and you have one malpractice suit against you, you lose your license.
You're struck off,
So why does that not apply to police officers? This guy, Derek Chauvin, the guy who killed Freddie Gray, has apparently killed 2 other people in the last 17 years.
Through the
same system. He shot a guy called Leroy Martinez in 2011, who was a 23-year-old Alaskan native, who had his hands up and shot him and killed him.
Does that go back to like we were just on about before though? Like that's how the system has been allowed to get to, which goes back to the original point of that's why people are now kicking off.
Yeah.
Because shit's got to stop.
And this is the thing for me, you can't retrain that. You have to change the system.
Yeah. You can't it's gone long enough now to see if people do it themselves.
And the problem
it's not.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are so hung up on tradition, and we've had this before where I've said to you, tradition is the enemy of progress, and I stand by that. Because if you don't believe that, then why are you not using a Nokia fucking 3D? You know what I mean? You're okay with technology getting better and anything that can benefit your life getting better, but some things like, no, that's tradition. Well, tradition's allowed to change. Traditions have to be formed. And I think policing globally, policing does not work. It doesn't work. I'm sure 50 years ago, everyone knew their local policeman and it was a different thing. But now the way policing has gone, it's been militarized and it just doesn't work.
But also 50 years ago, it was a very different world.
I mean, it wasn't really. Like in 1968, there was rioting because of Martin Luther King. Like,
no, I mean in terms of the way the world works.
In general, yeah. I mean,
it was a different place.
But there were way less of us as well.
But exactly that's what I'm saying. So it was different in many different ways.
Yeah, we've doubled our species in 60 years.
Yeah, there's a lot more different ways of life.
And not only that, I think the poverty line has increased significantly.
And that's what I was just about to say. That there's a lot more people on the poor. I don't want to say poor because poor.
But there are poor people.
But there are 100% poor people.
Yeah.
People living like. Going back to like my dad bought his house for like $5,000 or something like that. Which back then, again, money was very different.
Yeah.
But we're nearly 40 now. I'm nowhere near buying my own house. Not a chance.
Yeah.
Like I literally live paycheck to pay, and I don't earn bad money.
Well, most people I know live paycheck to paycheck.
But 90% of my friends live the same way.
And I think looting, a big part of that is what looting comes from. Is that there's not rich people looting, there's no wealthy people looting.
No.
It's people who don't really have a lot, and especially on the back of a recession that's being caused by a pandemic where people in the US haven't been working and the government gave them a £1,200 check.
It's an opportunity, is what
it is. And I think when you live in a world of celebrity and fucking influencers and all those people who are like, Floyd Mayweather showing how much money he's
flashing it around.
Yeah.
And
then all of a sudden there's an opportunity, and it could be opportunities and opportunists is the right word, but so what? Like your insurance is going to cover that.
But there's in everything there's an opportunist.
Yeah, and not only
at
that,
some point
there was a thing I saw, which was in ordinary times people do not loot from stores because they simply choose not to. Mass looting in response to police brutality shows that police are largely powerless to stop crime, which shows that aggressive policing is not what keeps the street safe.
That makes sense. So it's like a subliminal message to the police saying, look, we can do what the fuck we want,
because
whenever we want.
We just
choose not to.
In this country, there's 122,000 police officers and 65 million people.
Yeah.
They cannot police us.
No.
They can't. If everyone tomorrow went, fuck this revolution,
it's game over.
They're massively outnumbered, but people don't do it. So I think the fact that it isn't done shows that people aren't just assholes who want to go and steal shit. And
no,
if
the police suddenly tomorrow closed up and disappeared, would there be anarchy? To an extent, yes. But at a certain point...
How long do you think it would be before you noticed that there wasn't police? Outside of people...
That is a good point.
Outside of people needing to call them.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But I say, at some point, as does with anything, people will start to self-police. People will start to look after themselves
100%.
and their friends. And then you effectively get the same scenario as with the police. It's just not official.
Yeah.
So I think the police's job is made easier with other people.
Yeah.
Not even being decent people and not necessarily breaking the law because they don't want, because they can. They just choose not to.
Yeah, because they're not assholes.
Because exactly. So it's like, well, we could all break the law. I'm sure we all do. We all speed. We all do whatever. So everybody at some point has broken the law.
100%.
And people just choose not to.
And not only that, but laws change so fucking much. It's like now, look at the amount of black people in prison in America for marijuana, which is now legal in so many fucking states.
Yeah.
So if it's legal, surely should they not be released?
Which they also deemed as an essential business during coronavirus.
Exactly, yeah.
Because they didn't close all the clinics and the... what's the word?
Dispensaries.
They didn't close them.
So surely...
Because it's medicine.
But that's what I mean. So again, if it's the same here, if it was legal, it's like slavery used to be illegal, and then one day it wasn't. So times change.
Yep.
So when times change, surely you should also change the way you're thinking and change the way that people have been punished based on those now not crimes.
It is institutionalized thinking.
It is.
It's exactly what it is. It's the same with the gun laws in the States.
Yeah.
Like, that will never change.
Yeah.
And it will never change because it's gone too far.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
I don't believe in nothing will never change.
I think there's too many people with guns for it.
This kind of pissed me off though, because on the 1st of June, Trump basically declared civil war amongst his own people. He said he was bringing the National Guard and bringing in the military. And that if any mayor said that they weren't going to have it, or commissioner of a place that they weren't going to have it, that he'd fix the problem himself. And literally declared civil war against his people. Now, when I've travelled in the US and travelled other places, and I meet people, Americans, who speak about the gun laws, they always say, well, we want it in case we need to
protect ourselves
against the government.
Oh, against the government, right. That's the same thing.
That's the main argument.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so where were you? Look, this just happened.
Yeah.
There's armed police in the streets, and where the fuck are you? Oh, it's okay because it's against black people. So that's why we're not going to go out now. We'll see how this works out first.
Some people did that, didn't they? There was having a lot of people was walking around with their rifles and stuff, but that was to protect against looters. Was what they were saying.
Which is
they
fine.
were protecting their neighbourhood.
But there was
against
the thing
looters.
2 weeks before it, when I'm sure you saw it, when there were people outside saying, "I want my hair cut," with signs. I want to play golf.
Yeah, you're taking away my liberal freedoms and, and civil abilities and everything else, and
there were people marching on Capitol Hill, armed to the fucking teeth, and not one riot officer came. There were no tear gas.
no.
And these are armed motherfuckers, and not one person came with tear gas, with shields, with helmets. There's videos of them screaming at them when they're not wearing masks, because apparently all lives don't matter. Sorry. I'm not sorry at all.
It's true. It's
you know what I
true
mean?
though. It is true.
And look,
2 weeks
that's
ago,
fine.
all lives didn't matter
Yeah.
because you was protesting that coronavirus was bullshit.
Yeah.
Now, but you're posting about black people. Yeah, but all lives matter.
Right,
all lives
exactly.
matter now.
And I think one thing that's important that I kind of need to put across is that when people talk about racism towards black people, towards brown people, and then racism towards white people, just off your head, how many white supremacist groups can you think of? So, for example, you've got KKK, you've got BNP, you've got the Nazis, you've got the Combat 18, you've got
I don't
National
know. The
Front.
first things that come into my head is National Front, EDL,
Right. Yeah.
sort of thing.
So, right, now think of any other group of any ethnic minority against white people.
So black supremacist groups.
Yeah.
Brown supremacist groups.
Just any.
I'll say
Ever.
Al Qaeda, but that doesn't necessarily is the same thing.
Well,
is
it's
it?
not, because Al Qaeda want to convert
They're
everyone
just
to
they're
Islam.
just angry about Western
But
civilization.
they want to convert
and-
everyone. So if you're white, if you're Chinese,
It doesn't
if you're-
matter, does it?
They
Yeah,
want
that's
you on
true,
their
yeah.
side. So it's
No,
not the same thing.
Fair point.
So there's none. Historically,
Yeah.
I'm sure someone will be able to find one somewhere. There probably have been a couple. I'm not saying they haven't, but it's never been an issue or a big enough thing to even be in your mind, right? Now think of the amount of racial slurs you know towards black people, brown people, Chinese people. Don't say them.
I'm not going.
But just think of how many you know.
Yeah.
Right, again, you will not be able to complete that list. Now think of the amount of racial slurs you know towards white people.
Yeah.
It's,
Two.
right. That's
Maybe.
That's one more than I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think this is the thing, like globally.
And I don't even think that's necessarily racist.
Right.
It might just be a generic term
Yeah.
for somebody that's white.
Yeah,
Like, I
and
don't even know if
this
it's
is
like
the thing, like
derogatory.
historically, there has been so much pushing down of brown people, black people, especially black people, historically. And we live in a world where white people make the laws. White people
Isn't it-
are in charge of every big Western developed country.
Yeah, again, that's what I was going to say. Going back in the day,
Yeah.
it was a minority majority thing.
It was.
The white people have always been the majority.
And I get that. Like in the US.
So it's
Well,
always been, you're
since-
less than us, we can be better than you, we're better than you, we can be stronger than you, we can take over you, you work for us.
Yeah.
End of story. And I think that's what you're saying is, it's still the case. Like, white people are still the majority,
Yeah.
but the equality is what needs to change.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that.
100%.
Yeah.
And it is. And I think as long as we're having to have this debate, because there will come a point historically in the future, the same way now we look at slavery and go, fucking hell, can you believe people did that?
Yeah.
This is that time now. This is that time where people will have conversations in 100 years saying, can you believe that people were saying all lives matter? Can you believe that people were complaining about a statue of a fucking slave trader being torn down? And you're choosing what side of history you want to be
Mate,
on.
you're saying that in 100 years. I'm already feeling that
Yeah.
now.
Well,
Do
this
you know what
is
I mean?
the
Just
thing.
after this conversation,
But
I'm already
yeah.
thinking, I thought some pretty fucking weird shit when this all started.
Yeah.
Because I didn't understand. And it's as simple as that.
And I think one thing is, I met my friend yesterday. He messaged me and said, "Can we have a conversation about this?" And I'm like, happily, because he saw me ranting on Twitter, and was like, "I'd rather talk to you in person." And we sat and we talked it out, and it was fucking great. And at the end of it, he was like, "I feel much more educated on it." And I realized in talking to him that I have got more education on this because I've educated myself on it, because it affected me. But I know more about Abraham Lincoln and why he abolished slavery, which wasn't because he was a nice guy who went, "Let's just get rid of slaves." That wasn't what it was. He still tried to emigrate them all afterwards. He didn't want them in the country. And he essentially eliminated it to win the war. With Churchill, who's become a big conversation piece recently.
Yes, I've seen a few things.
Churchill
about that,
starved 4 million Bengalis, like Indians, and he said they're breeding like rabbits. And he was a war hero, but he was also a racist.
But yeah, and the thing is, if the war hadn't have happened, he would never have been a war hero.
Right, but he still would have
But
been
he
a racist.
still would have said what he said
Yeah.
and done what he done.
Yeah.
That would never change.
And the thing is, like, you can Google. I think people feel like one discredits the other. It's like Jimmy Savile did a lot of fucking charity work, but he also was a paedophile.
Yeah.
One doesn't mean the other wasn't true.
No, that as a whole, you make a decision on
Right.
that person throughout every part of
Absolutely, and
their...
I think that's one reason currently it's kind of like, I can't believe people are having to defend this argument again. Like, so I remember I was in Asia and I came back from traveling, and I got a £5 note, went to a bar, I got change, and Winston Churchill was on there, and I was like, I don't want that, give me. And I still now won't use £5 notes. I'll ask for change because I don't want a fucking racist in my pocket.
And also, it directly affects you probably more than anyone because
it's
of
Indians.
your history
Right,
and your...
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he starved. It wasn't like he killed. He starved.
That's what I'm
4
saying.
million.
And that's the thing I think is the biggest issue of people, like you mentioned about the silence and stuff like that. I don't think it's people not giving a fuck. I always see the best in people, and this is probably one of my problems, right?
I mean, it's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, but it does bite you in the arse a lot, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
I think it's a lot of people are not... It's not that they don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't care. It's that they just don't know enough to comment for fear of possibly saying the right thing or the wrong thing.
I get
So
that.
it's easier to just go, as I did at the beginning, just bury your head in the sand.
Yeah.
And if you don't think about it, and if you don't talk about it, it's not
At
happening.
least you're not offending anyone. You're not upsetting
No,
anyone.
you're not upsetting
Yeah,
anyone, and it's not affecting you. I'm not getting upset about it. I'm not seeing anything. If I just stay off Facebook, it's not happening.
yeah.
So it doesn't affect me.
I get that. And
Do you know what I mean? And I think you have to be, even if you choose to research it and find out about it, but still don't speak,
Yeah.
at least you've made the effort
And I get that. And I think
to make to have an educated opinion on it.
I think my one thing is, if you're not sure what to do, look at what other people are doing and how that's been received.
You've only got to read certain comments on. I've learned so much from reading people's comments.
Yeah.
And then I've gone, well, actually, like I seen this list of this guy was going, well, all lives matter, and I don't see why they had to pull the statue down. It was this, it was that, this, that, rioting, it's wrong, blah, blah, blah. And she posted this comment. It was obviously a copy and paste, but it was this massive thing. And he's like, what does it achieve? And within, like you said, like within 10 days of riots or 5 days of riots,
The amount that's
all
been
these
done.
different things was
Yeah.
achieved that if people had just gone, well, the guy was killed,
Yeah.
it's bad, we'll get the copper arrested, and that's the end of it. He'll be punished, bang. That's probably all that would have happened.
Yeah.
And even then, his charge got upped to a more serious charge.
Well, yeah, he was arrested after 4 days on a 3rd-degree murder charge, which is manslaughter. And then they arrested the other 3 police officers and upped his to a 2nd-degree charge. And they still want it to a 1st. And I don't think this should end at all. I don't. I think so much can be done. And this is the time. There's never been, in my lifetime, I remember LA 92, the LA riots when Rodney King was beaten by 5 police officers. And the riots then. I mean, I was only 10 years old, but I still remember it being on the news. I remember throughout my life when things have happened and nothing of this significance has happened. And when people say, why is this an issue in this country? When the Vietnam War happened, 123 countries protested it. 123, and that war wasn't won by one or the other. America left because of the pressure they were getting globally against it. If people protest, then more will be done.
People can't bury their head in the sand
They can't.
when there's protests around the world, and that includes from the lowest level people like me up to the highest level of world leaders.
Absolutely.
They have to take notice.
And celebrities need to speak up.
It's
and
as
everybody
simple
else
as
needs to
that. Yeah,
speak up.
exactly. And I think
That's what I mean by use your platform. And even if your platform is, I put a thing up the other day and I meant it to be like antagonizing, I guess, was if your parents weren't okay with you dating someone of a different race, then you were raised by racists.
and chances are some of that's instilled in you. Whether you believe it or not, chances are.
Or it's pushed you the other way.
It's subliminal. Yeah, you're completely against it, and you're pushing against your parents.
And the thing is, like, one person put a thing up on Twitter saying, if you feel uncomfortable, you're meant to. And I think that's a key thing of this, because a lot of people don't like being uncomfortable, but growth comes from being out of your comfort zone. That's how we grow. You know that from traveling. I know that from
I
traveling.
felt uncomfortable when it all first started
Yeah.
because I just didn't. It's not affected me in the same way as certain people.
Yeah.
It's not been. It's never really been an issue
Yeah.
personally to me. Do you know what I mean? So it's not for want of being ignorant. It's just I didn't need.
I get
Effectively,
that.
I didn't need to know about it
Yeah.
without actively going to
find
find out
And
about
I get
it.
that.
Do you know what I mean?
And I
that's
think
the
that's
difference.
one thing with me, is because I've had it for 37 years and I was angry and frustrated about it 20 years ago.
Yep.
So imagine where I am now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that's my point.
Yeah.
So when people are like, I understand that sometimes I come across as a bit of an asshole, and I do. If you follow me on social media, I can be, but I'm fucking pissed off. And I need you to understand that. And if you want to have a conversation with me outside of this, anyone can fucking reach out to me, and I'll happily talk to you about this or anything else of something you think you need better understanding of that I might have. Because I do. If I don't know something, if I was going to want to learn about gay rights, I'm going to go to a gay person and ask them. You know what I mean? Because that's going to be the best source of information.
Which also happened through rioting.
Which also happened, yes. Stonewall. No, it was. That's how they got their rights.
Women's rights, rioting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like slavery. They didn't just think come by our until they went, okay, go on, you can leave. Like every single significant part of equality that has come historically has come from writing.
Because people just snap.
They do.
And they just have enough.
There comes to a point, and eventually people have to go, shit.
But even on a smaller level, like, people have their own mini riots.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if you're ranting on Facebook
That's what
because you're
strikes
pissed,
are. Strikes are the same thing. If you have a strike
if
in your
you're
company,
angry that somebody in fucking Woolworths, not Woolworths, Asda, whatever,
I like that you went
treated
Woolworths.
you badly, and you have a rant on Facebook,
Yeah.
you're having your own little mini riot
yeah.
because you could have just accepted it,
Yeah.
but you've chose not to, and you've chose to speak out to try and get other people to understand your point.
This is one
which
thing-
in its basis is a protest, is a riot.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Well, you put a thing up at the start of COVID when you went to the hospital, and you put a very passionate speech
Yep.
up, a tearful speech up, saying, just stay the fuck home. I've seen firsthand what this is doing. I've seen the effect it's having on doctors. Please just stay the fuck home. And it's the same thing, I think, when you've experienced something that's, because I hadn't seen that.
No.
And I couldn't relate to it because I haven't been around doctors or hospitals or nurses, so I haven't seen the effect of it. Because you had. And that's why after that I was like, cool, we're not doing the podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, I can see how much it affected you. So I wasn't then going to be like, cool, next week do you want a social distance hang or something like that?
Yeah.
Because I was like, clearly you're not in that headspace. So fully respected it. I think that's the thing. I think people need to look, just because it isn't affecting you, it's affecting someone. Now ask why it's affecting them.
And there's never been a time to find out
Yeah.
in an easier way.
Yeah.
Like
completely.
everything that you need to know
there.
is literally on your Facebook feed.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
Just look.
Yeah.
Stop fucking sharing Karen's post.
And I think the
Please.
thing is, it's a big part of it is just stop trying to give people your opinion on it. Just listen first, process a lot, because that's how you're going to learn, how you're going to understand, and how you're going to grow. And ultimately, that leads to equality, which is what we're all. I mean, when the whole thing with black, there's a thing of Michael Shea. I'm not sure if you've seen his comedian that was shared, where he was saying all black people want is Black Lives Matter, just matter. Nothing
Yeah, I did
more.
see that actually. There's a stand-up routine.
Yeah. And it's like, and like he's like, gay people want rights. He's like, we're not even asking for rights.
No, we just want to matter. Yeah.
I think that is the thing. The other thing I want to say, because I just saw it on here, is blackface.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Because there was a lot of conversation about Little Britain's been taken off Netflix and Gone with the Wind's been taken off, and the dude who did, what was that show?
Bo Selector.
Yeah, has apologised.
He apologised.
Why is he having to apologise? Why are these shows going off? And my friend gave me a quote. My friend Charlotte gave me a quote, and I'm just going to use this. One uses, because there's some white chicks in comparison.
Yes.
So one uses blackface, which has a history of being used for racist propaganda, reinforcing black stereotypes about black people. The other is a caricature of appropriation of black culture amongst the white upper class. So I think,
Well, let's break that down.
right, okay, the point of it is that blackface has historically been used to demonize black people. They wouldn't, so back in the day, like the first film ever made was a film called Birth of the Nation. It was a film in America about the KKK.
Right.
And in that, they made black people seem animalistic. They were rapey, they were savages. That was the point of it. But rather than getting black people to play those roles, they get white people to black up and play those roles.
Okay.
And they did that for years. 20, 30, 40 years, there's the minstrels and everything else, because they wouldn't have black people. They didn't want to give black people that platform.
I see. Yeah,
They would have white people blacked up.
So by definition, they're rubbing it in their face by saying, we could have got you in, but we chose not to, and we're just going to black up.
Yeah.
To prove to you that you're lower class. Exactly.
And they would portray them then as an absolute over-the-top caricature of what black people were. White people haven't had to have that, ever. Brown people haven't had to have that, ever. I mean, John Wayne played Genghis Khan once, which was fucking appalling. There was Mickey Rooney, who played a Chinese guy in Breakfast at Tiffany's. So there have been other examples of it. There's never been an example, historically, where white people have had that. If it's done now, it's done by Eddie Murphy in Coming to America, or if it's done in White Chicks. And White Chicks was done to point out the irony of it. So that's why it is bad if Little Britain do it, or if Bo Selector do it, or if other people do it. And that's why White Chicks isn't the same thing. And if you're not sure, just Google it. You have the fucking internet. If just Google blackface and research the history of it, and then shut the fuck up, which is the main thing. Just always shut the fuck up.
That is, now you've explained it, now it makes more sense.
Yeah.
If you just see the meme, well, this is okay, but this isn't.
And then you're going to go, well, yeah, of course.
Well, yeah, of course it's not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's the same thing. On its basis of that picture, it's a black person doing white and a white person doing black. Yeah, of course it's the same thing.
But the whiteface was never done.
But the whole history behind it.
Whiteface was never done to historically make white people look like savages.
I don't think
like
whiteface has ever been done.
Well, it hasn't. I mean, the only time whiteface was done modernly is White Chicks. And Eddie Murphy in Coming to America played a Jewish barber.
Which was never aimed in a racial way in terms of slurring white people. There was just it's an
over-exaggeration
of two white chicks, basically. Yeah.
And the whole I mean, I watched the film when it first came out, so I don't remember it completely. But
I don't think I've ever seen it.
I'm pretty sure the point of it is that there has to be white chicks for a reason or something like that, which just kind of follow that whole race.
But they're two dudes as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's
the
two dudes.
Brothers. But I think ultimately my point is, if you're going, now is that time, like I said, that when slavery changed, there were people back then that wanted slavery abolished. That's why it was abolished. And not just the slaves. There were white people who were allies or supporters or whatever you want to call it. And there were the people who were pro-slavery. And a lot of people now with the statutes say, yeah, but that was just at the time. Everyone was pro-slavery then. And it's like, well, no, they weren't, because otherwise there wouldn't have been bills to abolish slavery in the first place.
Ultimately, people that were pro-slavery were people that were benefiting from slaves.
Right.
If they didn't benefit, chances are they probably would have had a different mindset.
Yeah, exactly. And I think now is the time where this is our version of that, where there is an equality. Currently, the conversation is about black people. So let's just keep attention there and look at yourself and question, why would you say all lives matter when you know full well what it means? And like I said, I'll use the NHS as an example. You weren't clapping for the fire service. You didn't put rainbows out for firemen or teachers. It was purely for the NHS because you knew at that time they needed the respect and the attention because of what they were doing.
But you also didn't think that they was of a lesser minority. You didn't think, oh, well, I only care about the NHS. Yeah, I can see you in a supermarket, but really.
Yeah.
You were still caring about them people. Yeah. You were still caring about the fire service and the paramedics and everything.
Teachers and everything
So you
else.
wasn't just going, well, I only care about the NHS because only NHS matter.
Yeah. It was a matter of...
unless you're an absolute arsehole, you care about everyone.
Right.
End of story.
Yeah.
And that's by default.
Yeah.
You don't need to say all lives matter.
You don't.
Because we know that.
Right. We know that. Like, no one was clapping and saying, also, by the way, teachers are great.
Yeah. No, we know all lives matter.
Yeah.
Because we're not horrible, nasty bastards. End of story.
And not only that, black people aren't saying white people don't matter.
No.
And it isn't white versus black. It's everyone versus racists.
Yeah.
And that needs to be... And one thing that you need to keep in mind is that no one's calling you racist, but we should normalize that. People should... Because racists fucking hate being called racists. It's like the worst thing you can call a racist person.
I'm not racist, but...
Right. And racism isn't just using that word that you shouldn't use. Or, you know what I mean? And people are like, I'm not racist. I've never called anyone that. Like, no, but like, again, off that definition, belief that groups of humans possess different behavioural traits corresponding to physical appearance and can be divided based on superiority over one race over another. And it is like, if you Louis C.K. had a bit, who isn't the best example to use because he jerked off in front of people, but that's a different thing entirely. He had a bit where
We've all been there.
Speak for yourself. He had a bit where he said he went into a pizza place and there were 4 black women making pizza and he went, huh. And that was his point. He was like, that's racist. Because why did I notice that?
Because black people don't make pizza.
Right, exactly. And like he was like, it wasn't meant in a bad way, it wasn't meant in an offensive way. It was just like, oh, you don't see that every day. And then carried on, you know what I mean? And that can be like, why do you have that stigma? If you see, I've had it, I've been on a plane before and I'm brown and seen another brown dude who looks like the stereotypical terrorist and going, oh fuck.
Yeah, but again,
and I have had it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like, I mean, I don't look a stereotypical terrorist. I've got makeup on and piercings and tattoos and shit like that, so people aren't going to look at me and think that. 'Cause if I am, I'm really bringing attention to myself, which I shouldn't be doing. And just, if you see a black person, hold your purse tighter. You know what I mean? Or cross the road because you don't trust them or something like that.
I mean, this has probably opened it up a lot more now, but what, I don't know how to explain it, like what, we're of a different generation now.
We are.
Like, so do you think it's a generation thing?
No.
Or do you just think it's instilled? Do you think it's going to get less and less as generations die out?
I don't think racism will ever end, ever.
No, it's the same as anything. Nothing will ever completely be eradicated. But I think it's you're always going to get the people that are adversely against gay people, against whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like that's not going to change. But do you think with the same with like the a few of my friends are Muslim guys, and they are now having strong feelings against the way they've been brought up,
right?
Because they don't agree with it, because they think that generation-wise, shit's moved on.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like when their parents was their age, and they still lived the way that their parents wanted them to, their times was very different.
Yeah, I get your point.
And now you've got this conflict of young Muslims going, well, I don't really want to do that anymore. Like, I want to just live my life the way I want to, rather than the way my parents and their parents have wanted them to.
I think the main thing is having conversations, like calling your parents out as well, like having conversations with your parents.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, if your parent can use an iPhone, they can learn about racism.
Yep.
You know what I mean? When people are like, oh, I've been doing it for too long. Well, no, you haven't. You can change. You'll always have, if anything, you have more ability to change. I think overall in your question, I think there's more understanding of it. I think with Muslims, for example, I never understand when people are like against Muslims, but like will support Arsenal and Mesut Ozil's a Muslim, Muhammad Ali was a Muslim, Mike Tyson's a Muslim.
Selective.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're not calling him a terrorist, so why is he any different to a Muslim you see in the street in a burqa or something like that? And that's another thing against the whole burqa and thing. I'm not going to get into it overly, but when people say like, oh, you shouldn't wear burqas because you can't see their faces, but now you're okay wearing a mask because you have to. Like, you have to look at yourself at these points and go, maybe it wasn't the burqa, maybe I'm a racist piece of shit.
Ignorant, or both.
Which is fine, but you have to stop always going, but sometimes you have to shut up and listen, and now is that time. And even if you've learned something from this, pass it to somebody else and go, you might learn something from it too. Or even better than that, if you know a person of colour, if you know a black person, a brown person, whatever it is, have a conversation with them and say, how do you feel? What have you experienced in your life? Because again, if this was about gay equality, I would want to open up a dialogue with someone who has suffered from it, because I can only have so much information because I've never had to encounter it. Or if it's about women's rights, I'll speak to a woman.
But also remember, even if you do speak to one person of colour, their opinion might be different to another person.
Yeah.
Same with gay people. Like a gay person might find one thing offensive and then the other person doesn't.
Yeah.
Everybody is individual at the end of the day.
No,
and that's the biggest thing I think we all need to take out of this is don't just group people together because of the colour of their skin or their sexuality or whatever. Like, everybody is individual.
Yeah. And I think the main thing is to remember that the whole point of this is that people want equality. That's it.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody's individual. They just want to be the same as the next person,
like,
regardless.
Yeah, black people aren't saying their lives matter more than yours. They want better rights than you. They want the rights you get.
They just want to be the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
Same as gay people, the same as women did, the same as anybody else that's been a minority. Everyone. And also, is that such a bad thing?
Exactly, yeah.
Is that really such a bad thing?
Like, we're at a point where people are saying, can you stop being racist? And people are like, nah. Like, sorry, like, that, can we have equality? Maybe, but... It's like, that shouldn't be your answer. Like statues aren't affecting your life. They're not. When was the last time you went and had a fucking look at a statue? Proper had a moment of like, oh, I love that statue's there. You don't care until you're told to, like, this is why this is being done. It's like, well, that shouldn't be done. Why? Why does it's a fucking statue? They're not attacking their grave.
No.
That would be disrespectful.
Some people did.
Well, I didn't hear that if I did.
They've pushed a load of gravestones over.
Yeah, don't push graves over.
They burnt the Union Jack on the cenotaph for some reason.
Oh, really?
Again, don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give my example of this. I was like, if 95% of football fans are okay and 5% are hooligans, that doesn't make all football fans hooligans. It's the same thing with protesters, with rioters.
It is that
I went to a
thing
protest.
again.
I went to a protest in Birmingham last week. Didn't spit on anyone, didn't kick anyone, didn't burn anything. It was in Birmingham. It was a very peaceful protest. There's another one on the 19th. I'm going to that if anyone wants to meet me there or anything like that. But not everyone's going to do that. When England go abroad to play football, and you always see on the news the fans kicking off and putting like tables over and stuff like that. That's not all England fans.
No, there's like 80,000 fans there, and a group of 15 people have done it.
So don't just label everyone like they shouldn't be doing this. Like, okay, yeah, they shouldn't, but don't let that detract from what the overall message is. Like, why are you focusing on the wrong part? Your narrative shouldn't be, I get he shouldn't have died, but people shouldn't be looting. The conversation should be, they shouldn't be looting, but why the fuck did they kill that guy in the first place?
And also, they shouldn't be looting, but why are they looting?
Yeah.
Like, why is this happening?
Yeah, and that is the thing. And I remember when the Tottenham riots happened here, and it was a big thing on the news, like why are they looting, blah 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 blah. And a big answer was, oh, just because they can. Well, no, because they always can.
I was just going to say, do you remember the riots in the UK? And I can't even remember what that was about.
Like, black person.
Is that what that was?
Yeah.
That was right. The guy got killed
in Tottenham.
Was it in the tower blocks? Was it in the tower blocks?
I can't remember where it was. I know it was in Tottenham, like that area, North London.
That's right. The guy got killed, didn't he?
And that was 2011, I think.
Yeah, and it all went off then, didn't it?
And that's what I mean. So when people say also it's not a UK problem, trust me, I'm brown. I've been in this country for 36 years because I've lived abroad for a year. It's definitely a problem here on every level, from doctors to police to teachers to across the board.
It's a worldwide problem.
It is.
It's as simple as that.
And no one's saying again, if you're white, that racism is just a white person problem. It isn't. You can have racism if whatever nationality or creed or colour you are, you can be the victim of it. But just understand that currently some people are suffering it worse. And especially if you happen to live in a...
Well, like you just said, I've been around now for 7 years, and once I've been called a racist slur. Once.
Yeah.
Rob, how old are you? We won't ask, but have you ever been called anything racist?
Does ginger count?
No.
No. Well, no.
No, never. That's what I'm saying, Sonny.
This week?
This week?
This week?
Really?
Actually, I don't think I have this week. What day are we on? Thursday? No, this week's been all right. Yeah, in my life, easily, I'd say a few thousand times.
That there is where I think we should end it, and that says it all, really, doesn't it? And it's as simple as that.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah, it's good to be back. I know it's been a heavy one, but I think it needed to be a heavy one.
Yeah.
Hopefully, like I said, people will have taken something from this.
I certainly have.
That's 100%. Good. I'm glad you have. I have as well. You know what I mean? It's good to have this conversation and me understand why maybe people are being quiet and maybe why people are choosing to not be as vocal as they are, rather than just get angry at them and shout at them on the internet.
Why you're not saying things? Yeah.
We will. I'm not sure how we're going to do this after this. We'll do it next week again.
Possibly.
Okay.
We'll figure stuff out. See how the world goes.
And we will try and have some normality back to it, but we'll also echo what's happening in the world as well. So if there are events that need talking about, I think everyone's bored of COVID now anyway. So.
Yes, that's true.
You were bored from the second day of it.
I was bored before it even started. Yeah.
But yeah, you can follow us on. Fucking hell, it's been a while since I've done this.
All the social media: Facebook, Instagram,
we're on Spotify,
Twitter, and
Apple
you can
Music,
get the podcast.
YouTube.
Yes, you can get the podcast from everywhere that you get your podcast from.
Yeah.
The video will be up on YouTube.
Yep.
With our beautiful faces on.
Yep.
For a change.
Yep.
But other than that, we'll see you next time. Peace and love. Stay safe.
Take it easy.
Educate yourself. Peace.
Peace.
Never said that before. Peace.
Peace.